Good evening, everyone. Testing out my new mic. Hopefully the audio is a little bit better quality than some of the past videos. This is hopefully a quick video. I say that a couple times and they end up not being a quick video. But this special request, which was a representation of an Indian-Pakistan conflict. These are two nuclear-armed countries that have had a past history of conflict, even into more modern times. And so far, they've been very responsible as far as not crossing that nuclear threshold, but it is a potential hotspot. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to start with say this scenario that the Indian Army has crossed into the disputed region, and Pakistan has made a choice to target Indian military sites, nuclear sites, to be able to disarm them. So we're going to represent 65% of the Pakistan nuclear forces. We're going to go 90% military targets. And we're going to launch. Nation's AIs are on, so India most likely will retaliate if they have the capabilities to retaliate after the first strike. Because these countries share a border, and because they are armed with these are more limited range weapons, so they're going to land at their targets very quickly. So there's very, very little time to react. So that does give a distinct advantage to the side that launches the first strike, and it gives them a potential decapitation strike capability unless the opposing country is armed with sub-launched nuclear missiles. Sorry. It's pointed out to me in some of my first few videos on this that I do not pronounce nuclear right, and I still struggle with it. But I don't pronounce a lot of things correctly, so sometimes you just have to live with that. We see here both had significant casualties. India just shy of 1 million casualties. Pakistan, 340,000. Look at the fallout. Not a significant amount of fallout. More due to the nature of the weapons, and fallout is going to be determined by not just the yield of the weapon, but also whether it's surface burst or if it's air burst, and the wind, time of the year, numerous other factors. So see there. Let me see what that was again. Okay, so India did get the worst of that exchange numbers wise. Of course, India having a greater population, percentage of population. Pakistan would have probably came out as having suffered a higher amount of casualties. Run this again. This time, there's going to be a slight difference. And this time, to go with India first. Now, India does have a no first use policy. But let's just say, in this scenario, we're going to say 45%. It's going to represent 50% of their usage of 50% of their stockpile with a 5% failure rate. We're going to go 100% military targets. And they believe that Pakistan is getting ready to launch a decapitation strike, so they're going to go first. I'm going to turn on Pakistan's AI. I'm going to leave off India's AI. The reason why I left off India's AI is I did not want India to launch any additional strikes. I wanted to represent a preemptive strike followed by a retaliation, and at this point they both suffered, and they're going to negotiate a ceasefire at this point. So Pakistan suffered 1.1 million casualties, India 169,000. Again, by launching that first strike, they were able to neutralize some of Pakistan's ability to retaliate, and certainly caused a significant more amount of casualties than percentage-wise towards total population. We hugely weighted towards against Pakistan. So let's say under this circumstance, being that India also shares a disputed border, and I am going to turn on their AI for this. Turn on China's AI. They share a disputed region or large amount of border with China. China has long-standing ties to Pakistan, and China has decided that they are going to not wait for India to decide if they want to launch against them, and they're going to launch a preemptive strike. They're going to go for 80%. I'll keep in mind, China has a no first use policy, so does India, but under the circumstances, people can justify their actions in a lot of different ways. And in this circumstances, the justification on the Chinese side is that India launched first. They launched their against their strategic ally, so China is going to neutralize any remaining threats from India. Let's run the casualties. So India has now suffered 28.8 million casualties. Pakistan, 1.8 million. They're going to have suffered some additional due to some additional airstrikes that India did, as well as not too much on the fallout side. There was some fallout from their initial strikes, but when I ran this scenario before where China has struck India, the fallout due to the wind patterns and stuff crossed over into Pakistan, causing casualties even when Pakistan wasn't initially targeted. It does not appear that Pakistan or India was able to get any strikes against China. So there you have it. This is a whereas I don't consider some of this necessarily plausible per se. Generally, cooler heads are prevailed, but if nations were to cross that nuclear threshold, which it seems there's more of a cavalier attitudes towards nuclear weapons in the last few years, which was a kind of a shift from the Cold War, where it was recognized pretty well that that was a certainly as stockpiles increased, despite some rhetoric on certain sides, it was recognized that it was just unacceptable. That was a threshold that couldn't be crossed. And there seems to be a more cavalier attitude towards them and nuclear brinkmanship. And so, whereas I could say India has a no first use policy, China has a no first use policy, there are scenarios where things can be justified. So you can't rule out that possibility. And it's important to understand what would be the effects if that happens, and also to understand the dangers of a potential decapitation strike. So by dispersing India, let me run one quick one again just to show. And what this is going to be, this is going to be, say, turn on the thing. This is going to be Pakistan doing a decapitation strike. So we're going to say 90%, 10% failure rate, 100% military targets. And AI is turned on, so India can launch retaliation. See what happened. Well, it's interesting. I ran this earlier, and Pakistan was able to completely neutralize the Indian nuclear forces. Maybe some factor that I'm not considering, time of day, but in this time, India was able to retaliate and retaliate strongly. And you see that Pakistan did come out the worst casualties-wise. So it's very interesting. So certainly it sounds like if you run the scenarios a few times, you may get a few different results. And I'm trying to watch my time, trying to keep this reasonable. Let me just do it once more. I'm going to do it one more time, and I'm going to see what the results look like that time as well. So let's see here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait, and I'm going to wait till 2 in the morning. Okay, 2 in the morning. Let's go to Pakistan. Let's go here. I'm going to be a little more generous. I'm going to say 95% of their weapons. Not going to work, but I'm going to go 90% military targets and 10% civilian. Let's go. Interesting. It looks like in this scenario, I could be wrong, but it looks like it's a significantly different outcome. Maybe it's because of the time of day. So let's see what we look like now. Glance at my time. I feel like Bob Ross. Okay, 1.2 million Indian casualties, 814,000 Pakistan casualties. Definitely a significant difference in the outcome from the prior one. So be interested. I'm going to play around with this a little bit more. If you have the simulator, I'd be interested if you leave a comment and say kind of what you're seeing running the same scenario multiple times, different parameters. And that's it. Like I said, it's a special request, and I'm going to, like I said, putting out some different content here soon. I keep talking about that, but there's still a lot to explore on this one, and so it's definitely holding my interest pretty well. But for anybody that's into the board wargaming, I'm also doing a GMT Games Next War Korea series right now, and so I'm about to make a video on that because there's a lot of rules. It's extremely complicated, and there's a lot of rules that aren't very clear. And if you go through like Board Game Geek and their forums and you see a lot of clarification, the designers are very, very good about responding very quickly to questions. But there's a lot of stuff that I did wrong my first go through. I got to like turn 3 and I was like, I'm doing a lot of this wrong. So I'm going to put out a video maybe to help some other people that avoid some of the mistakes I made. So if you have an interest in board wargaming, see some of that stuff come out soon. And like I said, I want to do some more stuff with Command Modern Operations and a couple others. So that's it. Everybody have a great night. Thank you. Bye.